A hush drifts over the cloistered garden as dawn spills like diluted honey across moss-laced flagstones. Pale light filters through the arched colonnades, where ivy curls around columns like quiet prayers. The faint cooing of doves rests in the air, softened by distance, and the stone underfoot still holds the memory of night's cool breath. A single figure, robed in earth-washed linen, emerges from the shadowed entry of the scriptorium. He walks slowly, deliberately, sandals brushing against damp stone with a whisper barely louder than the wind stirring the lavender beds along the cloister's edge. The monk's cowl is drawn low, not from secrecy, but from reverence, for the morning, for silence, for the thread of time that stretches through these ancient walls. He moves not with haste, but with practiced serenity, as though each step is part of a prayer written in motion. His rosary clinks faintly at his side, wooden beads polished smooth by years of meditative touch. A breath escapes him, visible in the cool air, and with it the soft rhythm of his presence anchors the day. Along the passage, sunbeam shafts pour through narrow windows and catch in motes of dust, turning them to gold as they drift slowly to rest upon the stone. The scent of rosemary rises from the herb beds, a tonic for body and soul. Further on, tucked within an alcove, a small fountain trickles with patient grace, its basin ringed with damp moss and fallen leaves that swirl gently in the water's circular drift. The monk pauses, letting his fingers graze the cool surface of a column. He is not walking to reach a destination, but to return inward, to stillness, to the divine hush that speaks not in words, but in echoes. His path winds deeper beneath arches carved by long-departed hands, each curve a story, each stone a still breath waiting to be heard. Mist clings to the cloister walls as the morning matins fade into silence, leaving only the faintest echo of plain chant lingering in the cool corridors. The monk steps from the chapel threshold into the soft light of the cloister walk, where vines droop gently from overhead trellises, and puddles reflect the gray sky and broken fragments. His footsteps stir nothing but air, not even the nesting sparrows startle at his passing. The hem of his robe glides just above the dew-laced ground, soaked slightly at the corners, a silent testament to the humility of repetition and ritual. The cloisters are old, not worn, but settled. Each stone underfoot bears the marks of time, gentle hollows worn by countless feet, smoothed edges touched by reverent fingers. The scent of wet lichen and old mortar breathes from the walls. A carved wooden bench rests beneath an arch where light falls in slanted lines, and there the monk lowers himself slowly, not to rest his body, but to still his thoughts. He closes his eyes as the wind hums gently through the columns, like a soft flute played by the hands of morning. In the courtyard beyond, the garden lies in ordered simplicity, rows of chamomile, mint, and sage quietly thriving in raised beds of weathered oak. Bees drift lazily from bloom to bloom, their presence a hushed symphony of purpose. A terracotta pot leans slightly askew beside a worn stone path, filled with new shoots just beginning to unfurl. Time here is circular, not lost, but nested within the folds of daily care. The monk opens his eyes and gazes toward the refectory beyond, where the scent of fresh bread will soon rise and mingle with the herbal air. But he does not move yet. There is no rush, only this moment, long and still and gentle. The world narrows to a breath, and in that breath, the universe rests, waiting for nothing more than the silent passing of one robe through one arch. Beneath the soft curve of an early afternoon sun, the cloisters fall into a quiet rhythm of warmth and muted sound. The old stones drink the light slowly, releasing a gentle heat that carries the scent of time and dust. The monk, now further along his path, carries a bundle of linen folded neatly against his chest. Each fold was smoothed with care, each edge aligned with reverence, not for perfection, but for the humility of doing small things well. He pauses by a shallow basin of water set into the wall centuries ago. Its surface mirrors the sky, broken only by the occasional ripple of a falling leaf. He wets his fingers and draws a slow cross upon his brow, the gesture less for ceremony than for the steadying it brings to his breath. Water, stone, and skin, all bearing witness to a life that moves without urgency. In the corner of the courtyard, a brother sweeps the cloister walk. The broom is hand-bound, the bristles uneven, but the strokes are steady, even. Dust rises and falls in golden beams of light, spiraling slowly before disappearing back to earth. No words pass between the monks, only a slight nod, a shared acknowledgement of purpose. A dove coos from the rafters overhead. The sound echoes faintly along the vaulted ceiling, a reminder that even silence is textured with life. The monk continues walking, each step a meditation, each motion deliberate. He touches a vine trailing down the stone, not to pick it, only to feel the softness of the leaves. Beyond the cloister lies the scriptorium, where vellum and ink await. But there is no hurry. The linen rests warm against his robes, and the sun paints soft gold upon the cloister walls. In this place, movement is not progression, but presence. A life of devotion is not made in grand gestures, but in the gentle consistency of daily rhythm, footstep after footstep, fold after fold, breath after breath, all held quietly within the walls of stone and time. Twilight settles gently over the monastery, staining the cloisters with hues of lavender and fading rose. The lanterns along the covered walk flicker to life one by one, their small flames reflected in the polished brass rings that hang from wooden beams above. A hush wraps the air, not from absence of sound, but from the fullness of everything winding down. The monk's sandals scuff lightly against the flagstones as he passes the herb alcove, where bundles of rosemary and marjoram hang drying from a rope line. Their scent, rich and calming, mingles with the distant aroma of lentils simmering for the evening meal. The kitchen hearth glows through a distant doorway, but the monk does not turn his head. The path remains ahead, where the cloister arches guide him like a great stone beast resting in peace. He stops at a wooden door set into the stone, its surface worn smooth by centuries of hands. A small iron latch turns with a familiar creak, and he steps into a side room, the calefactory, where older brothers gather before sleep to share warmth. Only two sit there now, heads bowed, one mending a frayed sleeve, the other tracing lines of psalms with calloused fingertips. They do not speak, yet a deep comfort hums through the air like a lullaby. The monk lowers himself beside the hearth, where the fire is low and steady. Sparks shift softly, rising and falling in orange threads. The stones behind him are warm, their heat steeped in stories never spoken aloud. His eyes close, not in sleep, but in quiet gratitude. Soon the bells will toll for Compline and shadows will deepen, but for now there is only the hush of firelight, the murmur of robes against stone, and the knowledge that peace does not come from absence, but from being gently held within something older, slower, and kinder than the world beyond. Morning mist still clings to the cloisters, softening every edge with a veil of silver. The monk walks alone, his form a quiet silhouette gliding between the stone columns. Each breath he takes draws in the scent of damp earth, wild mint, and the faint memory of incense that lingers in the folds of his robe. His fingers are ink-stained, and beneath the long sleeves his pulse is calm, steady, shaped by hours of silent transcription. He steps into the east arcade, where ivy creeps through ancient cracks and bird-song filters through open arches. Beneath his sandals, moss has begun to reclaim the mortar lines, forming soft pathways within the hard geometry. He bends to pull a small weed from between the stones, not with irritation, but care, as if returning order to a beloved space. Further along, a brass bell hangs from an iron bracket, used to summon brothers to chapter meetings.
It does not ring now. Its silence is a kind of music, a held note in the vast pause of the world's breath. The monk touches it lightly, and though it makes no sound, the gesture feels like a blessing. In the garden beyond, a young novice prunes a rose bush. The monk watches for a moment, the careful tilt of the shears, the way the novice gathers the clipped blooms into a basket of woven reeds. Life here is not without purpose, but its pace is anchored in intention. Each act, no matter how small, becomes sacred through presence. A soft breeze moves through the courtyard, carrying the scent of petals and parchment. The monk turns back towards the scriptorium, where light slants through mullioned windows onto blank pages awaiting stories. Yet he walks slowly, allowing the stillness to deepen, to stretch like warm cloth across his shoulders. In every step, a prayer not spoken, but lived.
As night draws its curtain across the monastery, the cloister stones grow cool beneath the monk's feet. Overhead, the sky deepens to indigo, stars pricking through like candlelight behind velvet. Lanterns glow softly along the walk, their light golden and low, swaying slightly with the breeze. A hush falls over the world, not an ending, but a descent into something deeper, something still. He carries a small bundle of wax tablets wrapped in linen, their edges warm from his hands. These are not for writing tonight, but for smoothing, softening the wax by the fire so that tomorrow new lessons may be etched. The practice is slow, circular, steady, the kind of task that invites the soul to rest within it. Passing through the archway near the chapel, he pauses to listen. A single voice chants the last lines of the evening psalm, echoing like smoke through the narrow hall. The tones are low, drawn out like breath upon cold glass, a song meant not to be heard by crowds, but to comfort the stone. He enters the warming room, where the hearth glows low and steady. An elder brother sits beside the flames, his eyes half closed, lips moving in silent prayer. The monk does not interrupt. Instead, he kneels near the embers, unwrapping the tablets with care. The fire hisses quietly as the wax softens under his hands. He smooths each surface with the back of a wooden stylus, erasing the day not with haste, but with reverence. Outside, a branch taps lightly against the leaded window, an old tree reminding the walls of wind. In the slowness of the task, time loosens its grip. The world becomes the curve of the wax, the glow of the coals, the rhythm of breath. And when the last tablet is wrapped once more and the fire reduced to fading orange threads, he rises, not with urgency, but with the gentle certainty that peace is found not in the absence of labor, but in its quiet, sacred repetition. The first bell of dawn has not yet rung, but a soft silver light is beginning to pool along the edges of the cloister. The sky beyond the arches holds the faintest promise of warmth, though the air is still cool enough to turn breath into mist. The monk walked slowly, barefoot now, letting the chill stone draw him fully into wakefulness. He carries a wooden pail, half filled with morning water drawn from the well, water so cold it bites gently at his fingers. The path to the lavatorium is familiar, lined with old mosaics worn smooth by the souls of 100 generations. A wren hops along the edge of the walkway, cocking its head curiously, then flutters away into a rosemary bush. Inside the washroom, basins carved from pale stone catch the light like bowls of milk. He pours the water with care, the stream catching in the silence like the first music of the day. His reflection in the basin wavers, a face creased with years, but softened by long seasons of peace. He washes without haste, each motion deliberate, not to cleanse, but to honor the beginning of another cycle. A towel of rough linen waits on a peg beside the door. He presses it to his face, then folds it neatly and returns it. These motions, repeated every morning, have become more than habit. They are anchoring threads that hold the soul in place. As he steps back into the cloister walk, a beam of sun breaks through the mist and lands upon the old sundial.
The shadow it casts is barely visible, but enough to say the world turns. And stillness, true stillness, is not the absence of movement, but the choice to move only when the heart is ready. The monk breathes in, long and slow. The day will unfold as it always has, not as a task to be conquered, but a path to be walked gently, one quiet footstep at a time.